Hello, and welcome to this little channel. Thank you everyone for supporting the channel up until now. Today we will continue the story of Suzuki Satoru as Ain't Soul Gown in the New World.
Volume 15 Budget Anime Episode 4. We should have questioned those elves in detail when we moved them to the 6th floor. Well, we couldn't back then. A few years had passed since then. And while some basic information had been gathered about their circumstances, they had not been asked questions about the elven country or any personal information. That was because Ainz wanted to maintain his position as the friendly undead who had saved the elves from their slave master's tyranny. If he had drilled them for specifics about the location of their homes or about the elven race, they might have suspected that he had ulterior motives, and so he wouldn't have been able to preserve his image. But wouldn't it be the same if they were to be asked those questions now? Not really. The situation now was different from when they were just the great underground tomb of Nazarick. It wouldn't be suspicious at all if Nazarick, the sorcerer kingdom of Ainz Gown, which had brought many races under its reign, wished to gain information on the elven country to open diplomatic relations. Now I have a suitable excuse for everything I wanted to ask them. Plus, I don't think the twins are the kind to have bullied them. It would be great if they completely opened their hearts to me, but I should temper my expectations. I would have given better orders back then, if only I could have thought this far ahead. Even as he thought about this, Ainz disliked the idea of Aura and Mary having to treat those elves with feigned kindness on his orders, though if it was Demiurge or Albedo he wouldn't have given a second thought. As with the earlier comparison between the regular maids and Cocytus vassals, it was not good to let one's judgment be influenced by appearances. However, Ainz could not rid himself of his bias, probably because he was just an ordinary person. With Lumiere following, Ainz walked down the dimly lit corridor. A large portcullis loomed ahead with sunlight spilling in through the latticed gratings. Further ahead was the circular arena on the 6th floor. It was possible to directly teleport to the twins' residence using his ring. But he chose not to because, as if it was an automatic door, the portcullis quickly rose up. Ainz suddenly had a sense of déjà vu. He had visited them in the same way on his first day in this world, when he also met the small figure standing before him now. "Welcome, Ainz-sama, we have been waiting for you." The energetic voice of a young girl welcomed him. I have some business to attend to. Aura, I will be relying on you." He was fortunate that Aura was the one on guard duty today. As the Sorcerer Kingdom expanded, the floor guardians ended up taking on a wider range of duties. As a result, they often had to operate outside of Nazarick. But at any given time, 2 or 3 of the following floor guardians, Albedo, Demiurge, Aura, Cocytus, and Shaltir, must remain within Nazarick. Usually, it was the trio Albedo, Cocytus, and Shaltir, but sometimes Cocytus had to attend to the Lizardmen village and Shaltir had to take care of the dragons. During such times, the others would stay behind. This system was not developed on Ainz's orders. There was a time when Ainz had considered making Cocytus responsible for the defense of Nazarick and designating Shaltir as his assistant. But the size of the domains they managed was much different now. So, Ainz thought it would be fine if the others headed out as long as they left at least one of the guardians behind. That said, he felt hesitant about telling that to the guardians. It was because Ainz was afraid that as an absolute ruler, his opinion would end up taking precedence over the independent thoughts and actions of the guardians. He wanted to respect their autonomy. Additionally, Ainz's opinions were probably meaningless anyway when Albedo and Demiurge, who were both far more intelligent than Ainz, were in agreement. A guardian's ideas would certainly be better than Ainz's with his below-average intellect. "Okay, I understand, Ainz-sama. So what brings you here today?" Ainz gave a solemn response to the smiling Aura. To be honest, there was no need to be so solemn just now. The usual spoken in a regal manner would have sufficed. However, he ended up responding in a heavy tone as he thought about whether things would go smoothly from here on out. It ended up having quite an effect on Aura, as her expression turned serious in an instant. This was bad. It was definitely going to cause another misunderstanding. Phew, Ainz nearly swore out loud. He would not be able to keep his act up if they noticed that something was wrong. He was confident that if he was pressed on it, his act would break down and he could do nothing but ad-lib his way out. First of all, I came here to meet the elves. Just to make sure, would I be right to assume you are speaking of those elf prisoners? Sorry, as I thought, I shouldn't have covered it up in such an awkward way. Please don't look at me with such sincere eyes. I want to see that smile from before. It's just as you have said. I want to know what they are doing now, and then I want to ask them some things to prepare for the next step. Understood. Then I will bring them here. Ainz knew that this would happen, or rather, that any denizen of Nazarick would probably respond the same way as Aura did now. That's why Ainz continued with the explanation he had prepared beforehand, although it was more of a deception than an explanation. And no, there is no need for that, because I am here to achieve 2 objectives. 2 objectives, is it? Ainz Sama has considered so many things just for a meeting with prisoners. I see. She looked at Ainz with eyes full of admiration. Ainz looked away, unable to say that he had just prepared in advance for possible arguments from Aura and Mary. My first objective is to put pressure on them by directly approaching them. The other objective is not directly related to elves, but all sorts of creatures have been moved to the 6th floor after we brought the Great Forest of Tom completely under our control. I thought I should see how things have turned out with my own eyes. How about it, Aura? I would like you to show me around the place that has changed the most, if you don't mind. Basically, management of the floors was left to their respective guardians, with Ainz rarely intervening. Therefore, Ainz had never gotten the chance to examine the changes firsthand. That was proof of the trust Ainz had placed on the guardians. If a subordinate's work was going well, a superior butting in could only be considered a nuisance. Since he was already going through the trouble of visiting the elves, he thought he might as well take a look. He didn't know how Aura interpreted it, but the air around her suddenly became more tense. Understood. So the first was about this. Aura replied with a strained expression. And there's no need for the if you don't mind, Ainz Sama. Ainz Sama is the absolute ruler of Nazarick. You do not need a guardian's permission wherever you may choose to go. I'm grateful to hear you say so. To say that you're grateful. Well, in that case, I think the Field of Flowers is the area with the most changes, so please let me guide you there. Field of Flowers. Ainz searched through his memories. It's the place where some of the plant-type monsters were moved, right? Yes, that's correct. Then there's the segregated area where we have relocated the non-intelligent plant-type monsters, and an area inhabited by the intelligent plant-type monsters, some of whom have settled in the village we built a while back and are living like humans do. Would you like to proceed there? That village had been constructed inside of Nazarick in case they met other players in the future, to show that Nazarick was capable of coexisting peacefully with humans. While it comprised several small houses and fields of crops, it was difficult to call something of that scale a village. But as there was no other suitable word for it, it ended up being called a village nevertheless. Does Ainz Sama remember the dryad called Pinison? Yes, I remember them well. This was mostly a lie, or more accurately, he could not remember their face or other such details, only a vague silhouette. So he did in fact remember someone like that, as the fight that occurred shortly after meeting them had left a stronger impression. They were more like an adjunct memory in comparison. Frankly put, Ainz was not good at remembering things like people's names or faces. He was the type to write down his impression of the person he just met on the back of their business card. That one is now something like a village chief. Hearing more from Aura, it seemed as though the plant-type monsters were a capricious lot and the title of village head was just a self-proclaimed position. But having acted as an intermediary between the plant-type monsters that first came to Nazarick and other plant-type monsters, it had become moderately popular. You could say it was the representative for the plant-type monsters that came from the outside. There were some plant-type monsters that were stronger than Pinison and tended not to listen to it, but with Aura and Mary's support there hadn't been any problems so far. The plant-type monsters arriving in Nazarick had all received Aura and Mary's welcome. This welcome consisted of a demonstration of Aura's and Mary's strength, as well as a display of the host of other monsters that followed them. After having realized the difference between their respective strengths, most of the monsters would end up obediently following the twins' orders. Also, when the monsters saw the cash shop woodland dragons that accompanied Mary, they seemed to be in awe of him, wondering if he was a god. The final nail in that coffin was when they saw him create rain and increase the nutritional levels of the soil to frightening levels. But I don't think all the monsters worship him as a god. Maybe it's because some monsters recognize the events as the work of druidic magic. If I had to explain it, he is more like an existence to be extolled. Aura pondered. Ainz more or less understood. It would be something akin to praising a player as a god for creating an awesome-looking set of gear. Or maybe it was something like being an idol. Perhaps it was a mixture of the two. I see, I understand the gist of it. Anyhow, if you two are able to subjugate them without any problems, then that's fine. There should be no issues with whatever means or methods you may employ. That's that. Ainz was now regretting his choice of words when they were managing just fine, instead of blathering meaningless words at length. He should have just praised them honestly with a simple well done. He stole a quick glance at Aura's expression, and it didn't seem like she was particularly bothered. But maybe she was just not letting it show on her face. Superiors should not use words that can demoralize their subordinates. Haven't I read that in some of those books on management? Ainz gave himself a mental admonition to take more care when choosing his words, and to keep tone and manner of speech in mind as well. I would like to see the village, but let's just keep it to the Field of Flowers this time. I apologize for that, especially after you went through the trouble of suggesting something specific. Aura waved her hands about in distress. Please don't mind. As I said before, Ainz Sama is the absolute ruler of Nazarick. Please proceed through this floor as you please, Ainz Sama. Please let me apologize for my arrogance in proposing such a suggestion. And no need. Why are you apologizing? Or rather, isn't that an odd reaction from Aura, not unlike her reaction a little while ago? Is it possible that my attempt to gloss over my mistake when we first met has resulted in this weird reaction? Does she think that I'm plotting something? Aura's words didn't wait for the unsettled Ainz. There exists no place in Nazarick where Ainz Sama should be denied entrance. No such place should exist within the entirety of this world. No, I think there are many places in this world that I shouldn't be entering, Ainz thought. Notably, there were many places where he thought only women should be allowed to enter, but if he voiced such an opinion, then Aura would assuredly reply that it was fine for Ainz to enter regardless. So he didn't reply, as it would quickly turn into an awkward situation for Ainz, at least if he did. Taking a quick peek at Lumiere revealed that she was nodding along as if to say that was how it should be. Whatever, it was bothersome to come up with reasons for why that wasn't the case. Taking care to not let such inner feelings show, Ainz spoke gently to Aura. Well, then please show me the way. Understood. Leave it to me. Aura thumped her chest. So, how should we travel? Would you like to ride something? That's acceptable. May I impose on you? Yes, please leave it to me. Aura shifted her gaze to somewhere far away and wrinkled her brows in concentration for a few seconds. There are other magical beasts nearby, but I decided to call over Fen and Quadrasile. Is that all right? You don't need my approval for each and everything you do here. If Aura deems something acceptable, then I have no objections. Thank you. Please wait for a bit. Then I'll be in your care, Ainz replied as he looked around the arena. The most enjoyable walks in the great underground tomb of Nazarick. Such an activity elicited a different kind of joy than the sort of entertainment available on the 9th and 10th floors could be found on the 5th and 6th floors. Although it was extremely rare, if the timing was right, one could see a luminescent phenomenon known as an aurora on the 5th floor. Unfortunately, it seemed that the probability of its appearance was set very low. In contrast, the 6th floor was a place that was entertaining enough for a normal walk. They were about to travel through such a floor. Ainz gave a small smile as he felt his stomach ease a little.